There we go. That's how we do it.
Good morning.
Morning.
How's it going? 8 a.m. on the dot on March 4th, right? How's it going, Rich?
Good, Chris. Good. Although Friday was officially the start of March, feels like this is really the beginning of March now that we're actually looking at the month ahead, looking at all the cool things we want to do, and really actually, keeping in mind and planning out some shows, which is awesome. So good stuff.
Yeah. Monday morning. Hopefully everybody's having a good Monday, whether you're watching live right now or in the future on YouTube. And we've talked about Blazor quite a bit on this channel. And I don't know if it was maybe before the new year. I don't remember for sure when you were working on an app and had some need for just state and information to be shared between components. Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's the kind of thing where, you start to learn Blazor and you learn the component model, and maybe you come from another component model, and eventually sooner or later, you're going to have, either because you've nested components, you've come up with a really clever, and clever not in a bad way, but a clever hierarchy to nest components so that you keep value in like a contained space and then reuse it. And you just say to yourself, how do they talk to each other?
Right. I got data in this component. I got something I want to do in this other component. How do we wrap all that up? And we started going down that path. And what I'm doing is I'm catching up because I'm actually trying to clone my repo locally here in this instance. Maybe I should, since we're just kind of diving into it. And we're kind of diving in quick because we started a few minutes late, so we've got less than an hour. But it's a chance for us to maybe just show this and walk through what I'm doing. The good news is we're not doing file new project, which is awesome. But what we are doing is I'm cloning. Can I paste? Yep, that's one. So this is a repo that I have out. It's kind of a public repo, and I believe this might be, let's just open up and find out. I believe this might be our .NET 7 instance of it instead of our .NET 8, but so we'll find out. I could be wrong. All right, how's that look? I'm in 1280 or 1920 by 1080. Probably
That should match the stream, which helps. At least I've found that it helps. I've forgotten to to switch out of 4K sometimes, and then I look at the stream later and I go, oh, that was a little blurry. But it seems like matching the stream's resolution works best.
Yeah.
So yeah, you do have a .NET 7 project here. Look at that.
Yep. So okay, so we'll leave this one as it is. I'm not going to mess with it. Let's. Oh wait a minute. Hang on. Different branch. Because there was a branch where I thought we were converting to. So I want to get fetch.
Yeah, just fetch to see what you have for now. And then maybe there wasn't any updates, but now the question is, what are the branches, right?
Right.
And so here's an interesting thing. A lot of people, if they just want a list of branches, it's like, how do you do it, right?
Yeah.
So the one thing about Git that's changing is that I sometimes tend, and so I just want to warn people, sometimes I still tend to offer like old commands, because I know a lot of things are changing. Like Git checkout is slowly, I think, giving way to Git switch and Git restore. But there is a Git branch, and I want to say it's -- all. It might just be -a that lists.
There you go.
And so that lists the branches it knows about. And what's interesting is like it's saying, okay, you could come get Azure Push or Azure Push 1 or .NET 7 or main or storage table. And then it's also telling you like origin main is your current head, which is just Git's way of saying what's the checkout you're currently sitting on.
Right. So if I do Git switch, and I say .NET 7, because I think that was the one we were doing.
Yep.
Oh, it did it, even though it wasn't. Yep. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, and so what happens is, and now it's telling us information here, and we often gloss over this. So I'm presuming that your surprise is because you may have never worked on this branch on this machine before, this
Correct.
repo, right?
Yeah. So
this repository.
This is the dev box that we looked at last time.
Right.
So it's brand new. Didn't know anything about this project. We just brought it in here.
Right. And so the subtle difference between fetch and pull is that fetch goes up to the remote, in this case, origin. Why origin? Because whenever you clone, it remembers where you clone from, and we call that origin, at least by default. You could always change the name if you wanted to. Mm-hmm. And so it Git kind of does some things for you. It says like, well, let me go get the default branch. Let me go ahead and track the default branch. And tracking is not quite as nefarious as it sounds. It's just kind of Git's way to say, okay, you're on a commit on this branch here. Mm-hmm. I know there's a remote branch, and for all I know, people could be committing to it. I don't know. So I'm tracking it, meaning that the next time that you commit or push or pull, that's the branch that I'm kind of doing the work with. I'm going to pull from that branch. And pulling is quite differently from fetching, because pulling, you're now saying, compare with the other branch and merge. Let's merge. Let's merge what I've missed.
Gotcha.
Which is the difference between fetch. Fetch is just saying, go up to the remote, get all the commits, bring them down here, and they are stored in the .git folder. They're just sitting there, and they're waiting for you to do things like switch. And so you switched, and it was like, oh, I already have the commits, but you've never used this before. You don't have a .NET 7 branch.
Right.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to guess that what you really want to do is you probably want Origin's .NET 7 branch. That's probably what you want. And you probably wanted to check it out. So let's create a branch here locally, and let's track it and match it up. And the thing is we get kind of bamboozled because it just does it.
Right.
And I'm not sure that the messaging isn't super clear. It's not that it's bad. There's nothing wrong with the messaging. It's just that
now see, that's interesting. That's not what I would have expected.
Okay.
I would have expected it would have switched to the head being origin.net 7, not origin main, right? Because that's what branch we're working with.
So what they're trying to say there, what remote's origin head is saying, and I know, again, sometimes I don't want to say that it gets too clever. It's just that Git just is a transparent. What that's telling you is, as far as the remote is concerned, based on the last time you fetched it,
Mm-hmm.
if you want the commit that is the latest or the current default, then that is the latest, the head commit on the default branch, pretty much almost always. So remote's origin head, what it's telling you is remote's origin head is pointing to origin's main. They are the same commit right now.
Okay.
But that's still, .NET 7 is not the default on the remote. Now, the only way that Git's going to get an update about changes at the remote is when you do a fetch. So you could work for days, weeks, months, and keep hitting Git branch all just like you're doing. And it's still going to keep telling you this until you go get updates with Git fetch or Git pull or things like that. Then you're disconnected. You're essentially in airplane mode, like all the time.
Okay.
You could shut off your internet right now, go to work, commit all you want. Doesn't matter until you need to fetch or pull.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense then.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the last thing that we pulled from.
It's what it knows as is the current default head. And head sounds like we're in a zombie movie, but head is just Git's way of telling you the current commit that you are building off of. When you commit, this is what you're going to build on top of. If you branch, this is where we're branching from. That's called head. Okay. And that's why if you've ever gotten into detached head state and you think, oh my gosh, it's happened, The Last of Us is here.
Right.
All detached head state means is that you are currently working on a commit that is not a branch or tag, not pointed to directly by a branch or tag that your repo knows about. That's all it means. It's really not as scary as it sounds.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
Yeah, there's a lot there. And it's one of those things where I'm not trying to say everybody needs to know how it all works. But then when stuff like this happens and you go, oh, I don't know, I'm scared. And you get scared. Right. And you wonder, should I delete my repo? I understand. I totally understand.
A little bit of a panic.
I've been there. That's why I learned it all, because I've been there. And I just was like, I'm tired of not understanding this.
Yes. And the sad thing is we know you understand it. So you're the one who gets all our questions.
Well, and I try to tell people, I know Git from a practical perspective. I have not dove much further than that. So it's like, oh, well, tell me, how does it store? Like, how do objects get stored? Well, I don't really know all that much. It's like, it's a practical level of understanding. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We did a little bit of state a few episodes, probably back in the new year, or last year, actually.
Yeah, the old
year. So what I'm going to do is try and recreate where we are, because I'll be honest, one thing I did not do was I thought I did not check that project into this repo, as you can tell, because our .NET 7 branch, instead of it being updated, is still pointing at the old .NET 7. Okay. And I know from some of the stuff that I did last time that doing that, for me, those modifications and the things that I wanted to get to, especially exploring things like the state like we have here, led me down the path of, I got to recreate this project as a .NET project from scratch, and then incorporate the pages and the components that I had in there inside of this. So that's why I'm going down this path.
Yeah, I don't think that's bad advice either when going from 7 to 8. I know that oftentimes with ASP.NET, the team strives for you to just go update the moniker in the project file that you have open and rebuild. But as you know, if you want the features of Blazor in .NET 8, there's been significant changes.
Yep. And all of that, and what you just said is what's in the docs. Right. And I don't know if we lost you or you just lost your camera, but what Chris is mentioning is, hey, if you just want to make a .NET 8, boom, say, .NET 8.0 in the project file, re-download the NuGet packages and references, and boom, you're off and running. In what I want to do here is I want to take advantage of some of those features. So that's why I'm going down the path of, hey, let's go ahead and just start from scratch and then bring the code in that I know that I want to use. So I don't need the sample pages here. Server interactivity is our default interactive mode because I'm not doing any of the WebAssembly stuff, so that's fine. We're going to configure it for HTTPS. That's cool. And I think that is it. Yeah, per page. Interactivity location per page. Yeah, that's fine. We'll do that. There's no point in making that global. Yeah, that'll work. So let's go ahead and let's create. Not going to worry about authentication here because this is an open application. And I'll get rid of this. That is the old project file. So let's look at the new one. Boom. All right, there we go. It's kind of what you would have expected, right? We've got .NET 8 components, right, instead of .NET 7. Everything else is kind of the same. I don't have a user secrets in there yet, but we'll throw that in there too. So that's not a problem. And then this also has a configuration manager, which we'll have to add to the project as well. So not a problem there. Okay. Let's into here in our pages. We had our index page, and our index page had a good bit of content in it. So I'm going to go back into components, pages, in the slightly different structured layout. It's also now called home. And I'll move that over. Put that here. Let's do this. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Well, I don't need that anyway. Okay, that's there. And then this one. And then let's split those apart. Awesome. All right, so we've got a few things inside of here. We also have component that we want to make sure that we recreate, and that component is just for asking questions. And there are some models as well. Let's components. I suppose components make sense. Let's do a new add inside of here. Let's get a Razor component. And our Razor component in this case is going to be questions. Component. Edit. Excellent. That exists. Let's look here. And we can talk through some of those things. So if I take that. I think Chris really left me this time. Let's see if he winds up coming back. But otherwise, we'll just keep heading down this path, which is something I was wanted to do anyway, and kind of get started back up again on. So we'll copy this into the code, and then basically what this control does is it provides a it basically is how I'm building out questions. So the application, the underlying application that we've got here is an app that is having a number, it will have a number of questions, and there are some different ways that we're thinking about creating them as opposed to predefining them, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But having a bunch of questions, and those questions need to, and we need to have the answers that are selected for those questions, collect all those answers up, and then pass them off to another control that is going to take those responses and, using some of the AI services, go and generate an image based off of those question responses. So the components, there's a question, each question that we have on the page is going to have its own component, and each component will then have an answer that has to get propagated up to another component that generates our image. That's the plan for putting this together. So right now I am just kind of redoing some things inside of the .NET 8 project. So we've got that there. I know there are some models that we need, so let's copy this. And this, we may have to re-add some namespaces, but at least if we throw the models back in here, we'll have we'll have those in there. So in here, there's this. I'll do this first, because if I start to bring in the namespaces for things that are not part of my project as it is here, then it's gonna, it'll add them the wrong way. So I want to make sure we got all of these in here first, and IntelliSense and Copilot is helping me along with those suggestions. So with that, that's awesome. I'm going to save this. Let's get rid of this. Save this. And I think don't we have a save all? Yep, save. Excuse me, save all. There we go. Okay. So we've got all those pieces there. Hey, Chris.
Yeah, I'm back. I have a loose cable or like a busted, and I can't figure out which one it is.
Oh.
Yeah, it's been fun. There's some USB connection that's a little off, and then it just kills the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, speaking of replacing things, I have just a quick aside. I ordered a few. Elgato came out with a new prompter. So it basically has a thing to put your camera over, but you can basically display whatever you want in the prompter. So if it's a call, I could be displaying the person I'm talking to. If it's something I'm presenting, I could have that content in there. But the idea is to be able to have something where I'm looking right at it and looking at the camera and being able to see what it is that I'm talking about and presenting. So those, I just got a notification that they are on the way because they were back ordered. So
cool.
Some new stuff to play with.
Yeah.
And that means I've got to redesign the desk and, all the things that come with it. So that's in the works. But I've heard good things about it. I've played around with prompters here and in the facility, and they do come in handy, but they're just too big and bulky normally. This one's nice and small. So, okay, enough digressing. So here we have question component. I think we need to do, what is that? We don't have any of no, I think we need to, so I did per page, I set up a new .NET 8 project.
Okay.
Did per page interactivity. So I have to define it on each page, right?
Okay.
So I think that's what it's complaining about here, is that I don't have at render mode.
Partially.
Right?
It's also complaining that you're missing a div at the bottom, I think.
Oh.
But that's not the only thing. Obviously, we're going to, it'll come back to the other complaining later.
That, or is it square brackets? I don't know.
Oh, how does render mode look? Right. It's funny how reliant you get on looking back at the previous page and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I certainly have the same issue. I'm trying to get everything going again here because, yeah. So it could even be the USB hub itself might be the problem. In my case, I'm not 100% sure because it was like all the devices stopped working.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, everything just stopped, and that was frustrating. So, let's see. Applying a render mode is you don't have to put anything in parentheses. You can just say, and which render mode do you want on this page?
Just server.
So just static server. So I think, do you even have to say anything?
Well, we did say it was overall we were looking for server interactivity, but we did specify it being a per page or component, not global.
Yeah.
Which probably should have done it as global, but
I mean, you can. I don't know if you can just put server. I'm trying to remember now. I'm not saying that you can't.
Right.
I just
All
was
right.
trying to think if you don't put anything.
Yeah. I mean, this doesn't seem to be the issue. It doesn't seem to be
Right.
um,
Right.
barking at that. Right, because that's not on. I don't think that is a property anymore. No, that is. Dolly 8 and models. So that's there. That should be there. Why is it not seeing it? Hmm. Well, it's probably not going to matter because we're not going to need to do that anyway. So let's hold on that, because that what this part is here is the part where we take whatever the response is, and we're trying to inject it into that, adding it to the overall prompt text that we're creating. The prompt being the piece that we're going to send to the AI model to say, okay, go generate me an image based off of this prompt. So that's what this part is, and that's the part that, if I remember right, last time we wound up saving that to a common state,
Right.
and then came back to and then pulled the state in the image component. So that may be where we wind up heading to. All right.
So while we're waiting, hello to Jason Van Brackle.
Hey.
Say good morning to us.
Morning, Jason.
Jason's been a part of the community. He's been up to Philly.net.
Yeah.
And it's always good to see you.
And I think he's coming back. I think he's coming back up for Code Camp as well. If I'm not mistaken.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I haven't looked at the list for a while. I know I got a session in there and then went away for the weekend. So
I know I got to put mine in today. Yeah.
Awesome. Be there to do the Kubernetes things. Well, I'll tell you what, nobody better to learn from, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
About Kubernetes. So
if you're interested in that and you're working with that, go check out whatever it is Jason's talking about. Yeah. Cool. All right.
So you're kind of trying to set up where you were, at least the UI to a point, and then we'll get some of the the pieces in there.
Yep. So let's do this, because this is my existing page. I don't need to worry about any of that. Boom. Oh, we can get rid of this too. Okay. I know that these are. Does that work? Oh, I love it when that works. Okay. The alt drag.
Right.
Okay. Services. Why don't we have services?
Yeah, that's cool.
Over.
Okay, so this all started. Let's see. Do you have a separate page that you're doing this on? Let me see. I'm just kind of looking at your Solution Explorer to see if I can figure it out.
Yeah. Do you want me to?
Or is it on the index page? Which is fine. I'm just sort of, while you're working, trying to do some color commentary.
Yeah, go for it. So all that was bringing over the services that I know we need, and I was updating the namespace before things start settling out inside of here. Why is that not? Maybe we don't need that one. Block that out for a minute here. Then we got questions. So down here is our code that should light up our questions and then create all of the components. There. No. Okay, there was no @code section, so we can do that. Boom. finish that. So that needs to be there too. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, because it couldn't find the. You had the service. You said I brought over data service. Why?
Yeah.
Why am I not seeing
What
it?
am I missing?
Because the name of your project is slightly different. Hello Dolly versus Hello Dolly 8. So you get to go around and change all the namespaces, one character each time.
And that's probably will now let me. Control KU, right? Yeah, there we go. And that helps that one. Awesome. Okay. So everything is kind of
Now,
getting back the way it was. Go ahead.
what about there on 19? Is it reaching for the old namespace there again?
Good catch. Yes.
Okay. It wasn't a red line,
No. If
but
this is intended to be a
I see what they're
component.
saying. Is they're saying you could, they would fix it for you too, I bet, is put in a using statement to not fully qualify it.
I see what you're saying. Okay. So then we could take this and get rid of all that.
Yeah, just a little cleanup now. The semicolon on the using, and then, although, it didn't yell at you.
No, not yet.
So it would figure it out, though.
Yeah.
In fact, maybe it's in the process of figuring it out. So,
Okay. I mean, that looks like the right syntax.
okay.
With an unexpected name. Yeah, I've seen that happen before. It's been a while.
Is it the thing that like you go compile it and then it figures it out?
Oh, hang on.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't, not always sure. Sometimes in Razor, I feel like that still happens, but I don't know. Oh, it's questions. Okay.
Yeah. So it's because that's the name of the component. So that's going to become the name of the class essentially.
Right.
Okay. Boom.
And this service knows how to read questions from a place that you've stored them, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. So those get loaded into request image prompts. Where's the data? From this here. So right, and right now we're not calling a service. We're going to stay with not calling a service. We're just going to read them in.
Oh, okay. Yeah. This is
right.
just your implementation. You could
Yep.
eventually pull them from somewhere.
Right. And actually the implementation is going to change a little bit because what we're going to do is ultimately answers to these questions will create a prompt that you get an image. What we're doing is backing up this a little bit and saying, okay, I probably don't need this anymore, so I can make my screen a little bigger so we can see what's going on. What we're going to do is say, okay, just why don't we use the AI to make up the questions as well? This way they can kind of be varied, and we can tell the AI, here's some examples, and using the completion AI, which based on those couple of examples, give me back potential questions, and I'll just use them in this. So each time you load the form, it should be slightly different.
Okay.
If not in what it asks, certainly in the text that it asks it, I would think. So, but for right now, we've got all this, so this should just run. So what I'm going to do is I don't want that to run. I want this to be the startup project. So now we've got that. One last check at the home page to see what might fail. that's just the text area. That's fine. Okay. Okay, I think we're good. Let's do a quick build. In oh, we missed one. Okay. Save this. Oh, still got one error left. On the questions component razor. This guy. Right, no help on that. Oh, let's see what we did on the other one. Hang on. Oh, we actually injected that. Okay. Wait, that's not what we said. Hang on. All right, that it likes. Okay.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So now you're saying to use dependency injection, go get that service.
Yes. But
it automatically, kind of implicitly, is creating the field for you, the class field for you too.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, but we didn't add those services, which we kind of need, right? Those are the things that we're going to try and do our dependency injection from.
Yeah, you were looking at the render mode directive earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that I'm pretty sure, after looking through docs just to confirm, I don't think that I see a render mode that switches you to server rendering. There may be one,
but server's kind of implied.
Server is the default rendering mode now. When you think about it, if you do nothing else, if you never put a render mode in, you're server rendered. And in fact, if you don't make more changes, the default is that everything is at least pre-rendered on the server. Even components that might be Blazor WebAssembly, they might be interactive WebAssembly or interactive server, they're still pre-rendered, and that can trip up a lot of folks. They might get, there's a lot of things that might go wrong. One is they might get like a flickering feel to the component being pre-rendered, and then the interactive rendering kicks in and does it again. Or they also might have issues where in the interactive version, they're expecting to call a service, but or it can go one of two ways. They're expecting to call a service that doesn't work well from the client. So WebAssembly, interactive WebAssembly isn't going to work, but it worked fine on pre-rendering. Right. And we've actually explored that here on the show where we, where we were talking about creating like a service that, so on the client side, you say, here's how you get it. And on the server side, you say, here's how you get it, but use an interface to kind of abstract that implementation. So anyways, you have your app up, and it's the Dolly image generator sample. And I wonder how much of it do you think works right now based on what you've cut and pasted? I'm just curious.
I think it should get to the point of it'll get to the point of being able to capture those responses. Now we had CSS on the previous one that was, as you selected one, it realizes that the button is selected and the button gets highlighted, right? So you know what your choice is. The submit button might work in that it might go ahead and start to try and pull those images together, but maybe not. Okay. I don't see anything happening. Although, did we do... Yeah, we are in debug mode. I don't see anything. Okay.
So right now you clicked a couple buttons and you're saying under the old CSS or the CSS in your other project, it would have highlighted those so you'd at least know.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think what's probably happening is the index razor wouldn't be here, right? What's the one that it's not the index. There is actually shared pages, right? So it's probably our main layout. Or not. Trying to see, there should be something that we use that basically lets us, what's inheriting from layout component base.
And now you're in the older project trying to figure out where the layout came from. Okay.
Exactly. Go ahead.
I'm thinking a little bit. And you didn't see it. You don't see it in main layout. What about in the page in the host _host in pages? So if there's one thing that I think is kind of nice about Blazor and .NET 8 is I feel like it's a little bit more straightforward that the app.razor kind of represents your page. And so maybe the CSS here, I don't know if it exists over in your current in app.razor down in the .NET 8 version. You have app
it's got local
CSS.
styles. Yeah. App CSS. Well, that's
right. There's a yeah. So you were using a site CSS. You could bring that over if you wanted.
right. Well, actually, I was just pointing to Bootstrap. I was keeping it simple.
Yeah. Well, you did have Bootstrap, and then I don't know if you needed any more than that. The site CSS could have been provided by Blazor and .NET 7 too.
Yes. Yeah, but I did not. Everything I was using the Blazor reference just because I thought that was easier because they gave me some of the more options than me trying to wire all that up. So then what we're saying is that the app razor should be pointing to instead of it's not main layout. Where did we see it? It was underscore imports. No. Wait, so we looked at main layout here, and then where did we go after main layout because we didn't see it?
You were in host.cshtml up in the pages section.
That's the one. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah. And this is .NET 7, by the way. So it's a little confusing because we're kind of jumping back and forth between the way things worked versus the way they're working now in .NET 8.
Yep. Yep. So if I have that and we go into app razor, not there, this app razor, which is how this is done in, as Chris mentioned, in .NET 8, I should be able to now drop that.
Yeah, you should be able to add your own and then, right. Now that, I believe what's on line 9 is what we're seeing is part of the CSS bundling support, which we haven't gone into. And I'm actually not too well versed on, but it enables a feature called CSS isolation. So I don't think you touch that, even though you can go hunting around looking for the file saying, where is it? Where's hello Dolly style CSS? I think that you're going to want that there in order to get isolation bundling support, but we haven't done that live or on a show, and it's not something that I'm super well versed in, but probably should learn a little bit more about.
Yeah, you and me both. Because there are some, Bootstrap's kind of what comes in the box, but there are some other potentially better ones depending on, how much experience you all have and want to bring into it. All right, so that's there. If I save this, we get a nice hot reload. Huh.
Now the next question is: is Bootstrap? Did you already look to see if it's in www root? I might have missed that in your new www root, anyways.
Yeah, actually, it's
Okay.
not.
All right, so let's get that over there. When you so I think you were creating this project when I ended up going offline for a second. And did you say you didn't want any of the sample?
I did,
That
and
might be
that's
why you're a little more bare bones, which isn't bad,
no.
you know.
There we go,
So look at that. Boom.
just like that.
Just
Like we knew
rendered it
all
right up.
along. Mm-hmm. So we could say that. So that selection stays. We could say this, and that selection stays. And then we gotta go see what the submit button does. But this is kind of to the point where we could look at, with the 10 or 15 so minutes that we've got left, maybe this is where we could then wire up that talking to the state instead of trying to write to some kind of a prompt somewhere.
Right. And so what is the outcome you're looking for is when somebody sets a button to green, something happens.
Yep. Yes, it basically takes that text of the button and stores it in the state.
Okay.
And we can figure out.
Is that to be used for submit, or is it to be used to display somewhere else on this screen, on this page?
When
Both?
when you hit submit, it's going to be essentially packaged up all of the answers, and then that will go over to a large language model for some kind of a completion API.
Right. And what makes it tricky is that the submit button is perhaps part of the page.
Right.
But the mood and color boxes we see are a component.
Correct.
So they have to talk.
Right. And the other part that we did was this here, which is that box that we're looking at and the submit button. Those became a separate component. So even talking back to the page where the components are sitting on wouldn't necessarily get you there. You'd have to go to the page and then go back down to whatever component this image component is residing in, which we haven't wired up yet. But I think maybe first step, just get the questions to write to state, and we can drop that in the text box that's there so we can see it.
Yeah. It's interesting how that might work. Like the page is an outer component, but then beyond the page you just said there's a component there. It's called the input text area. That's
just an HTML
that's
object.
a Blazor. That's just a Blazor thing. But this here, so this, let me see. There's you're creating a question component for each question that came back. Okay. Yep. All right. And that's going to be right now, that's where we're seeing mood. And the other one was color.
Yeah.
Right. They could be anything. It could be anything. So
right.
Let's see now.
And then if we go into here, this is where as you click the answer,
yep,
or click the button, whatever, for the appropriate answer, this is where that gets capture response gets created. So that's just the button event that happens, and then we're taking that value and say prompt string value. Oh, okay. So the way this happens in the model, not the way that we're going to do this going forward, but really in the model, there is, we tried to create, it doesn't matter. This would get replaced, right? What we were trying to do was say, what should that prompt look like based on the question that got answered? And instead of me taking that on, I'm basically just saying, look, here's a bunch of responses. Create a prompt that would generate an image using these responses. Ultimately, that's what it winds up doing. So while I tried to, and I think we can see this if we go back to that data service. Yeah. So, right. So something like this, right? What we're trying to do here is help the AI along in what it should be creating picture-wise, right? So having it evoke some kind of a mood, or the primary image should be based on this color, right? Instead of us declaratively saying that, why can't I just give it the values and have it generate it for me? And it does work. I fed it like 3 or 4 different potential responses to those kind of questions, and it does come up with an interesting prompt that produces a pretty awesome image. So I think when we get there, it'll be neat to see. But right now, we're basically, at this point, we're using this to kind of drive our state. If that helps. I'm sure there are questions.
No, okay. I just yeah, I see what you're saying here. So
when we get back to this part, this doesn't matter anymore. All we want to do is store the value inside of our state. This whole replacing of of ever really doesn't mean anything, so we can get rid of that. It's ultimately that's what we want to prompt that into.
Okay. Right.
Prompt string question prompt. Right. So we don't need this either because we're not capturing the prompt string. It's not even going to be a value going forward. All we want to do is, essentially and then this, this is for the formatting of it. So we find the right one with the right answer value. We go ahead and make that look different than the others.
Okay.
Yeah. And feel free to throw suggestions. I may not have this going the right way, but this is how I thought about it as I was writing it, what needed to happen and where things needed to reside.
Well, I suppose there's probably several ways to do it. One of them being it just depends on, it always depends on how much you want to abstract things out is when someone clicks submit, the root component or the higher level, the outer component knows that it has rendered components. So it might be interesting to say, okay, like one way to do it would, I think what you could do is when someone clicks submit is you could go through the components and like pull a parameter out of them. But that someone watching might view that as tying it a little too tightly to your UI. So then I suppose another thing that could happen, and maybe this is what we were working towards, was that I'm trying to remember now, is that the components themselves, maybe it's that the parent component had an event, or it could be that it was really more that the individual question components had an event you could subscribe to. And then the root component was like, well, I'll go ahead and subscribe to their question has changed button or question has changed event. And then when it's changed, I'll update my own state.
Right.
And that would be more of like a just in time, like we'll just do it when it happens instead of waiting for someone to click submit. And then when you click submit, somebody clicks submit, you're like, well, I now have it because I've been listening. I don't remember if that's the path we went down.
I don't remember which path we chose.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Yeah, I don't either.
I know we got it working.
Right.
I probably should just go back to the previous show and look. Or this is where we insert that clip of what we did previously.
Yeah.
So I think either one of the I'll think about what the right one is because we're kind of running up on time here. I guess the short question or the immediate question that I have is, given how we've got this created, when I click that button, is this going to get called? And will we, if we had some kind of we could set some kind of a breakpoint here, right?
Yeah, it depends on if you have an on click waiting there for you, which we might have seen that earlier. And
yeah, we did not. So we did not hold that there. So let's do this. That makes better sense. Let's see, because we are running. Just kind of reset that just to be safe. Yeah, and that's what I thought. It's not hitting the event.
Right.
Is that, and that's
Okay.
because it's server, right?
Huh. Yeah. Yeah. So is it just a matter of making these components interactive server now, mood and color, which you could
Yep.
do?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
And
like about this, and maybe we by doing this, it could have been a different show, but it's almost like we're actually talking about render modes, but starting with the default one, which is server. Um, because I think a lot of people who create new projects in Blazor, you're confronted with that question in the file new project. So you're gonna pick an answer, but then you still have this mystery of like, I don't understand how it works.
right.
So and I think for render mode, I don't know that you have to have it in parentheses, but I also don't know that it's going to balk on you either, because to turn off pre-rendering, I think that you have to I could be wrong. Okay, good, that's better.
Seems like that. Okay.
Yeah. So now you have it there on the server,
Yep.
and the serve. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. In the component, in the question component, and the question component's the one that's capturing that button click. In fact, I can kind of see it
Yep.
peaking on line 17. Is it saying on click? Except just it got squished because we're side by side for the moment.
Yep.
But so now let's see if capture response works. And this is I think this is great to say, like, you at least have to opt into interactivity now if you're going to use this method.
Yes.
This
Yeah.
does not, yeah,
In this
yeah,
manner.
right. This would not
Um,
preclude you if you said, I want to stay in render mode of server. No one is saying that you can't write JavaScript to do all the same stuff and include it in your Blazor client here, right in the view. And you can even find better ways to modularize that in
mhm.
Blazor so that basically when somebody clicks a client side button, you say, I'm going to handle that client side. Now, you can do that. And I've even seen demos of people doing it. And I've even noticed in Jeff Fritz's tags app, I think he has some client side JavaScript.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't been to enough of the streams to know why that choice was made, but I would say that I think a lot of people that come to Blazor are doing it to partially. One goal is, I want to stay in C#, if not 100%, always,
Right.
maybe at least as much as possible. So the point here is, while I was doing all that talking, is that the only change you made is render mode to interactive server,
Yep.
and now this works.
And hot reload did not appear to catch that, which is fine. That's
Okay.
you're
Yeah.
kind of redefining how this component works. So I did have to do a complete recycle.
Okay.
And restart the app. But once I did, as soon as I hit the button, I'm here.
Right. And you've got your answer of value coming directly from the button.
Yep.
And that's what you want. And what you were doing is you were at this point in time, you were building a response. And
Right.
basically anytime anybody clicked, you would be back here saying, hold on, let me build my prompt.
Right. And ultimately, that we'll do in the next show, is save it to state, because that's kind of where we want it to be.
Yeah, we need at least some way, because the individual components choices are one thing, but and I guess this is a question, and you don't have to answer it now, just to ponder on until next time, is because I don't want to answer it for you. I think and not because I'm trying to be cute. It's just really you're developing the app. So I'm asking is, when you're picking the buttons, is it important for the outer components to know the answer? When is it important? And even how much do they need to know? Like, I could see a use case of you saying, before someone clicks submit, I want to build the prompt right in front of them.
Right.
So in that case, I would think about, how do I find a way to notify the parent component? Here's the current state. Here's what's happened. So modify the prompt. Maybe the prompt originally says, generate image on being happy, because they haven't clicked something in the other box yet.
Right. And if we did that, then what that means is, excuse me, because we're letting an AI service create the prompt for us based on the responses. That means every time somebody makes an answer, we've got to package up the answers that are selected that have already been given, give that up to the AI model to say, build a prompt based on these responses, and have that come back. So I'm thinking, in my mind, we just do that at the end. You pick the answers you want and then say, okay, go.
Yeah.
And then that just goes and does it once.
Yeah.
And comes back and says, well, this is the prompt that got generated.
Right.
You might pause and say, do you want to continue or do you want to change your answers?
Right.
I'm thinking just.
So I'm thinking of a layered approach where the submit button is the one that goes off to Dolly. Yeah. But there's also kind of this visual feedback of like, I clicked blue and I can see that I clicked blue because the prompt changed. It wasn't submitted. Right. It's just that it changed right in front of me. Yeah.
Yep.
So I think we can probably do that. And I'm wondering if it could be accomplished with, even with something like events. Because I think, although I don't know that we've explored this all that much, is cascading values, I want to say, only go down. I don't know.
They don't go back up.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm pretty sure we used events last time. We wired up an event
right
on the question so that whenever that changes, it writes back to state.
Right. Okay. All right. Cool. So so that was interesting. That was a little bit of a preview of, I have a .NET 7 app in Blazor. I'm not sure what would happen if you just switched it over to 8. Like, I don't know if what they've done in ASP.NET Core is smart enough to say like, oh, you're doing this the old way. Don't worry, we got you. We're just, you're just not going to get, you all that stuff compiles, it still builds, everything's great. Or did you also have to do this migration to a model where you are picking a render mode, even implicitly? In your case, you're saying render mode server, which there isn't really anything to say. And then you picked interactive server to get the interactivity you wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think we were going to get, by just swapping the numbers, I didn't think we were going to get interactive server capabilities.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. I didn't think so either.
Okay.
I don't think so either. Unless it just, you were technically Blazor server before.
Yeah.
So the question is, does it just compile and say like, you're using Blazor server? Because in the, I hate using the term old world, but in Blazor prior to .NET 8, you made that choice. Am I Blazor WebAssembly? Am I Blazor server? And while you could create class libraries to try and use your code in both places, that choice was made when you started the app. And what's kind of nice we found about Blazor and .NET 8 is, while you still make choices, you can change your mind.
Yeah.
And it's not that bad. You change a couple attributes, and then when it comes to Blazor WebAssembly or Auto, you might have to think a little bit more because of that whole client project. But it's not that bad. It's like, oh, I can change my mind in the middle of what I'm doing.
That's
all right. All right. So
awesome.
Good start.
Yeah. I mean, that took us about 30 minutes to kind of get it from, kind of read. It was a small project, right?
Yeah.
Components, a page, not a big deal.
But we stopped and talked a lot too. So
we did.
So that it may not even take that long once you're familiar with it. So there's more to do. This is not the end of this. Now, to get to your ultimate goal, or at least for this particular piece, is we want to see clicking the buttons. It's interactive. We're seeing the prompt change, and then you can go out maybe even and get the image. That would be really cool. So,
well, it'd be helpful if we brought us up as we talked about it. Sorry.
Yeah. Instead of the little tiny, like, they're over there.
They're in there somewhere. So. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we got some work to do. I unfortunately can't stream tomorrow, but I will plan to come back here on Wednesday, and we'll keep going and get the service up and running.
Sounds good. And hey, if there's anything, if you're watching in the future and you've gotten this far, thank you so much for watching, whether it was live right now or in the future. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, or if there's something you want to see on the Dev Talk Show, please let us know in the comments. We actually have, I think, as you know, there's a few comments. There's topics that people would like for us to tackle. So we're trying, but it really is the two of us, and not at work. So, but
Exactly.
that's what the show's about. So we're glad you're here. We hope that you are successful with everything you do at work today, and don't be late for stand up. So, I guess
Like
that's
us.
it.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris.
Yep. We'll see you all next time.